Greetings, fellow pioneers, Rhadamant here. Thank you for tuning in to Pioneers of Pagonia. If you would like to skip the game's overview or the review of the scenario, please use YouTube chapters. So welcome everybody to a brand new series of Pioneers of Pagonia. Before I start, I'm going to read a little blurb about the game and what to expect from this series. Pioneers of Pagonia is a city builder and exploration game where you make landfall on an island and lead your people to forge alliances with other tribes and defend against threats like bandits, undead, or monsters. And this game was made by the creators of The Settlers. In this series, I will be teaching you how to play and playing the Foes in the Fog map. And of course, as always, this will air on YouTube, so you can get the social links in the commands. One warning, however. The game does not have a pause function, so it is going to be chaotically fast at the start of the series because I'm going to be explaining a lot of the in-game elements and whizzing by them. I will say, however, when you start a new game, you have these starter maps. These are the sort of campaigns, and there's a guidance map, which is a gentle way to learn the game. I didn't want to waste my time doing that because I'm going to teach as I play anyway. There's also custom maps so that you can have some replayability, and the custom maps can have peace, objective with enemies, or conquer island. But we are, or rather you guys have voted that I do Foes in the Fog. Your goal is to conquer the island by defeating all its enemies. Look out, not all of them are what you might expect. And as you can see, there's images of what you might expect. So these maps will have hostiles on the island. It's size 3, which is 900 by 900 meters, and it has a victory type of solving objectives. There was one other thing that I meant to show, so I'm actually going to back to the menu real quick. So if you're newish to the game, there is this also really handy feature here. Guidance objectives help you establish a core economy. So if you turn this on, it will sort of teach you how to set up production chains, which is really handy in case you forget something. So even though I've played this game quite a bit already, I usually leave this on, and you'll see the objectives on the right side of the screen. So, I am going to blow through the UI as fast as I can because, like I said, the game doesn't pause. And as I have escaped here, well, it pauses, but not with the overlay. As I escaped here, I can't actually show anything. So, on the top, you've got exploration and land claims, population, homes, residents, construction, craftspeople. I know, fast, I get it. Military, and then resources, and then weapons and tools. That's sort of what's tracked at the top. You can also click these to add more things to the tracker. Down here, you've got the mini-map, and the mini-map will expand and grow as you discover more land, and then time controls here. There is no 0, there is no pause. There's 5 and 1, so just keep that in mind. And then over here is the objectives. You can open them and close them with the O key. And these objectives, outside of the befriend all factions, are the guidance objectives of like, hey, you should do this. So let's get this done. The first thing I would say that you want to make is timber, stone, guard tower, and explorer's hut. Those are the really, really important ones. So I'm going to create a road. And the way this game works is everyone is loaded up in, and maybe I'll turn the game up a little bit. Everyone is loaded up in the ship, and you're making landfall. And the ship is loaded full of like 500 people, and then also a bunch of resources to help get you set up. So I'm going to set up a basic road, and these roads will get trafficked and busy, and like backed up. But I'm going to set a road straight into the forest here with a woodcutting hut, which will cut down trees, and you can tell them where to work with this button, and then also tell them not to cut young trees with this button. And then I'm going to have them cut the trees in this area here so I can free it up for construction first. Then the sawmill takes what is cut from the woodcutting hut and turns it into beams and hardwood. Beams are mostly used for building buildings, and hardwood for building tools and weapons and the like. The other thing that I mentioned is you want stone pretty early on. And there is some stone over here on the west side of my boundary. This also brings me to another really interesting point, and this is a game mechanic that I don't really see very often. So the game has two types of military units. They have guards, and then they have like actual military. And primarily, the job of your guards is to take border stones and move your borders out, expanding them. So you claim more territory with your guards. And the border stones are made by people that work quarries and stonemasons. So it's really important to get your guard shacks up early so that you can get some land claims going. I also like to try to keep my my roads as straight as possible, just because it looks nice. So over here, I will put down a stonemason and a quarry to start. So the stonemason, the quarry will just mine stone, and the stonemason will turn that stone into cut stone for buildings and border stones for land claims. And then next to this, I'm also going to put a guard tower. I'm going to put the guard tower here. On the east side of the map, I am also going to put a guard tower. Maybe like right there. Okay. Put a guard tower here. And guard towers will be staffed by 10 guards each, and they will help to expand the border. The other thing that I think is pretty handy early on is the Explorer's Hut. So the Explorer's Hut are non-combat units, which will scout out the island for you, which is really handy. And as you can see, more or less I have followed the guide up top. One Explorer's Hut, 2 guard towers, a woodcutter, a quarry, a sawmill. It suggests I have 2 stonemasons, so I'll probably add a second here in a second. Once maybe this tree is cut down, because as you can see, the tree is blocking it. And then as I complete these objectives, the game will suggest other sort of guidance in order to grow the starter city. Resources outside of my territory cannot be exploited, no. So I set up this quarry here, but this quarry doesn't have access to the stone, so it's going to be important for this guard tower. I'm going to make it a high priority by clicking this flag or hitting T. And then I'm going to tell the guards to do land claims around this stone so that they can actually use it to make more cut stone and border stone. And up here, you can see border stone and cut stone. The other thing that's important to look at is available and reserved. Reserved is resources that are tied up in either construction or production chains. So, for instance, I have a bunch of hammers and shovels. Shovels for diggers who flatten out the ground for construction projects, and then hammers for constructors. But sometimes you'll see that you'll have a bunch of tools and they'll be reserved, and which means you probably need to make more. All right, personally, I like to get a whole bunch of woodcut really early on, and this is so that I can clear a lot of area for actual towns and the like. So I'm going to do just that. I'm going to get 2 more woodcut huts and have them cut away this forest so I can actually start to build houses and the like. One thing about this game is there is a lot of terrain, especially on this map. There's a lot of terrain that is mostly unusable. So see this rocky terrain, for instance? This rocky terrain really will only support mining buildings, and not even all of them. It won't support smelter works. It will only support like digging or mining huts. So there's also marshes here, which won't support construction either. And there's no terraforming options. So I mention this because often you will find that the terrain will be rocky, rugged, and a lot of it unusable. So you have to be very careful about how you lay things out, because it's very easy to run out of space. And the way town centers work in this game is you have taverns and markets that are sort of at the center of your town with a sphere of influence, and they provide food and meals to the houses around them, which encourages population growth. So what I'm saying is when you play new maps, you should look for like a nice swath about the size of the tavern's circle that you can designate for homes for growth. Not all homes need to be within a market or town, but the homes outside of markets and towns won't have like population growth through child rearing. So while it is totally fine to have cottages and residences lying outside of your town centers, they're not going to help you grow. That isn't to say that I won't use them. I actually prefer not to have a lot of my houses covered by markets and taverns so that it can control population growth, because I don't need uncontrolled population growth to the point where I have a lot more mouths to feed and no work for them. All right. The objectives now are suggesting I make a forager a hunter's lodge. So a forager will forage berries and mushrooms, or porcini and raspberries. But currently there's none within my territory. So here's the plan. This guard tower on the west is going to start making claims around the stone here so that the quarry miners can actually mine. And I will get a second quarry out as soon as there's space for one there. The guards on the east, however, I am going to have them start making land claims around the raspberries so that I can collect the raspberries with a forager and also hunt the boars and the deer in the forest with the hunter. The game also wants me to build cottages or residences, and I am going to do that, but not quite yet. And I'm also not going to be building a forester yet either, as I don't want to plant these trees back. I actually want to just clear cut them. So here you can see the guards putting down land claim stones, border stones, and expanding the border to include things like stone. So now the quarry can work and mine the stones, which is very handy. And then these guards are doing the same thing. And there are two different buttons for the guard towers. So there's patrol points, which is for fighting units, which would be soldiers, rangers, or fear nots. And then there's claim focus, which is for guards or veteran guards. So your guards and veteran guards will fight, but not that effectively. The TLDR of the combat units is that guards and veteran guards are land claimers. Soldiers are your basic sword and board fighters. Rangers are good against thieves. If there are thieves that are in a bandit camp that come to your territory disguised, it requires a ranger to reveal that they're a thief. But rangers aren't as tough as like a veteran soldier, but veteran soldiers won't know to fight thieves. And then fear nots are really good against the magical enemies, like werewolves and ghosts, as regular units will be too afraid to fight them, would be the TLDR. Okay. The next thing I probably want to set up here is the Forage and Hunter's Lodge. And I think I'm just going to put that here. So you can see there's tons of game in this forest, and I'm going to be turning that game into leather, and that leather into armor and backpacks and the like. And then there was also tons of raspberries, and I'm going to be turning that into food for my populace. The next big building that I should be planning here would be the tavern. So the big thing about the tavern is that the tavern will take raw food and turn it into comfort meals, which will be brought to tavern tables around the tavern so that certain people with certain employments can get fed those special meals. So for instance, the quarry miners eat nutritious meals, and nutritious meals are made by the tavern. So if you don't build a tavern early on and then supply the tavern with raw food to make into meals, you end up with miners and other workers that essentially go on strike because they haven't been fed. So, very important to keep them fed. So I think what I'll do is put my tavern here. And all of the buildings inside of the sphere of influence of this tavern are eventually going to be moved elsewhere. When I say that there's plenty of game in the forest, game means things to hunt. Game animals. Game hunting. So we got the tavern, and then I think what I'll do is put the tables along the road here. Like that. So along the main avenue, anyone can stop and be fed a hot meal. So the explorer's hut, I want to have them go out here. So this is flax, which is useful for making cloth and rope, which is very handy for a lot of construction projects. Additionally, I'm going to start making storages too. Don't sleep on storages. So storage allows you to have inventory for things to be able to control your production chain. So for instance, this quarry is mining stone mostly, no limestone. There's no limestone within my sphere of influence. So I'm going to say, hey, store regular stone here. And then it's also next to a stonemason, which makes cut stone and border stones. So I'm going to say, hey, also store border stones and store cut stone. And that way, the production buildings can't be backed up, full of inventory needing to be hauled, and the distance it takes to haul is very short. So grouping your production facility buildings in close proximity to one another is very handy, in other words. Another thing to note, this sort of gravel, you can only really build paths on, roads on, but not mining facilities. The sand allows for buildings. The gravel doesn't, and the marsh does not either. So if you see gravel or marsh or water and things like that, there's a very limited amount of uses for it, meaning that I am going to trace my pathing directly where the gravel is, because I can't use that terrain for anything else anyway. So let's go ahead and get another stone quarry. And I'll stick that there. As you can see, the stone quarries can go on stone, whereas like a stonemason cannot. There's another stone quarry feeding the stonemason, and then I also wanted to get another stonemason, so I'll stick that there now that that tree that was there is gone. Alright, the tavern is coming up. Nice. So, much like the tavern, there's another way to provide food for your people, which is a provisioner. A provisioner makes sort of like, you can consider it travel meals, out of bread, firewood, boar meat, deer meat, and rabbit meat into ration packs. And they're just as important as the tavern. So the tavern will keep certain professions fed, whereas the provisioner will keep other professions fed. So professions that need a provisioner would be like the explorer's hut, because they travel very far out into the world, and as a result, they require provisions to be prepared for them. All right, I am going to, because we ran into a body of water here, we just discovered a border of a Pagonian village across this water. But because we have this natural lake here, I want to get land claims on everything on my side of the lake. So, about land claims, the other factions on the map, at least for now, are never hostile. They also never expand, and they don't exploit resources outside of their terrain, which means there's not a land rush to fight them. The way the game works is that the Pagonian villages are always allied, or always neutral or allied, and there's different levels of alliances that you can make with them, where the final level allows you to actually incorporate them into your own village, or kingdom, or town, or whatever you want to call it. And then hostels are just little camps that are scattered all over the map that will have thieves, or werewolves, or ghosts. It depends on the map type that you're on. I don't know whether or not combat between other factions is part of the game plan, the roadmap. I'm not sure about that. And combat is pretty rudimentary, I will say, in that units more or less line up and fight one another one at a time in a sort of civilization style, whereas it's not. If you go with overwhelming numbers, like if I have 10 units of weak fighters and they have one strong fighter, that one strong fighter will 1v1 until it dies, in other words. So it's not particularly useful to try to use overwhelming numbers to overwhelm a strong opponent, as you will just get a lot of people killed. All right. In this area here, we also have copper and coal. So coal is used for a whole lot of things. For tool making, for smelting ores into ingots, that kind of stuff. And then copper is used to make basic swords, and then also used to make copper coins for wealth. And I will be starting mining that soon. So the game suggests that I build a tailor shop and guild hall. Before I get the tailor shop, I want another forager, and I want the forager focusing on the flax up here. Eventually, I intend to build a flax farm for a better renewable source of flax, but being able to forage for flax is going to help to keep our cloth and rope. Let's start tracking rope. Here we go. Our cloth and rope up. As a lot of things require cloth, like tavern tables or storages or housing, you know, they're all sort of cloth demanding. So another thing you're going to see is traffic. So it's also important as you grow to plan alternative paths so that you can traverse terrain quickly, because it's very easy to get bottlenecked if you're not careful. Highland Timber, and how goes it? Thank you for the resub. And Parable for the sub. Cheers, all. So it looks like we have iron over here. So I'm going to have the guard tower pivot and start getting this iron. And then I'm going to tell the explorer to explore out this way. I want to see more of the terrain. Explorers have to go first, and then everyone else can go after that. So you can't set up like your troops to go patrolling into unknown territory. That requires an explorer to survey it first. So the game wants me to build a guild hall and tailor shop. So a guild hall allows you to train more basic workers, construction site carriers, diggers, builders, etc. Very handy units to have. And I'll get one there. And then also, I'm going to pair that with some extra storage. Oh, does it not fit? Come on. Okay. I'll make a little bit more room. Any materials invested in construction are lost when you deconstruct. However, the first stage of the process requires you to clear the land with diggers, and there's physical labor used when digging out terrain, but there's no actual resources being used up. So we'll get the guild hall coming up in case we want more digging, building, or hauling. It also wants me to build a tailor shop, but as I said, before we do the tailor shop, it would be wise to get a forager's hut up here once there's land claims, or actually, there's already land claims here. Perfect. So once their land claim allows me to traverse from here to here, because right now I don't have land there, but I can tell my guards to focus on that. I'll put a forager here to forage the flax, so that a weaver can turn the flax into cloth, and then the cloth turns the cloth into backpacks and armor. So the tavern requires a market. So let's set up a market for the tavern. So the market will have people working in stalls supplying food to the tavern so that the tavern can feed people. And at this point, I will say I'm going to get rid of the initial sawmill and the initial wood hut, as I would rather have the market and tavern sort of attached to the market stalls attached to the tavern. And I'm going to be redesigning some of the roads too. So you can always break down your roads like this, and I might even move the picnic tables. Let's do that. They're not too expensive, and I think I'd rather have them relocated anyway. So the initial roads and everything that I set up were just for getting some starting wood, but then as things develop, you can set up more like permanent structures. So I'm going to get rid of these tavern tables, and while the work facilities are not connected to a road, they are disabled. I'm not getting anything out of them. So we'll have a road come down here and then go across to the guard. And something like that. What is this? Sawmill? Yeah, that's not going to be permanently there either. So market stalls, and then the thing I deleted was the tavern tables. So we'll get tavern tables back as maybe just attached to this eastern road that will terminate. Something like that. So that the markets will supply the tavern with the goods that they need to cook nutritious meals to satisfy everyone's requirements. Alright, this tree needs to go. It's in my way. Actually, both these trees. So we got the market stalls, and now there's actually room for tavern tables. So I should have probably waited for this, because had I been patient, I wouldn't have to rebuild it. Luckily, it's not too like, these things are not expensive things. All right. The other, another really important thing to build early on is a wood workshop. Wood workshops will allow you to make a whole lot of like wood-based tools. And I think I will put the wood workshop maybe over here. So we'll have this road continue and then eventually go down here where I can set up iron mines. I'd ideally not to like to block this area though. So let me rework this. Let's see. I'd like to fit something out on the shore there. And a wood workshop would be a good one such project. Oh, enemy camp spotted. Okay, so we have a bandit camp nearby, and I'm going to need to deal with that soon. Okay, good. The wood workshop does fit here. I'm going to see if I can't snake a road. There we go. Perfect. Okay, so we got a wood workshop there, and that makes hunting bows for hunters, wooden shields for basic soldiers, wooden spears for basic guards, torches for basic rangers, and then wooden cogwheels, which is needed for a lot of production facilities. And I'll put the iron hut back, which is one of the only things that can go in gravel. So I might as well have it on gravel. And then next to this wood workshop, I want to add in a storage for hardwood, which is the primary requirement of the wood workshop. I'm not going to worry about rope because I'm going to be making a very limited amount of honey bows anyway. And then next to the iron mine, maybe I'll put this on the other side. So this will be the hardwood. And then this can be iron ore. Storage is adjacent to the work facilities. Perfect. Yep, look at the traffic. So the original plan was to then have this be all the way through like that, which will help alleviate a lot of the traffic that we have. So we have most of the land claims around this peninsula. And I'll get a forager hut to start forging the flax that's around there. And then to have like a minimally invasive road running down. Nope, not wide enough. It's fine. To connect it. So for this forager specifically, I'm going to say, don't bother with anything but flax. Ooh, and I'm being my explorers are being attacked by bandits. So I'll send my explorers out a different direction. Let's have the explorers hug this lake coast and head out towards the neighboring city. So the neighboring factions, when you find their town centers, you gain quests or trade opportunities to be able to befriend them. So these market stalls, like this market is selling meat, and this market is selling raspberries. So the different ingredients required for meals are being sold to the market. Then the tavern keepers cook that stuff, and then people that want to eat at the tavern tables. Exactly how we want it. Down here, I'm going to set up a weaving shed and tailor shop. The weaving shed will take flax and turn into rope and cloth, and the tailor shop will take leather, iron, and cloth and turn it into backpacks, light armor, and padded armor. And I'm going to set up stockpiles for the production chain. So, set this up for rope, flax, cloth, light armor, padded armor, and backpacks. Okay. Padded armor and backpacks. There we go. And one of the last really important ones to get set up would be a toolsmith. And I'm going to set the toolsmith up here near where all my quarries are. And the toolsmith will take hardwood and boards and create tools out of hardwood boards, copper, etc. And some iron. And meaning that the iron over here will eventually need to be imported over yonder, but that's fine, because I'll just have a double stockpile. So we'll set up some stockpiles for that. So this was iron bars and coal. Then we also want hardwood. And unfortunately, I can't build stockpiles on the stone. Hardwood, copper, and that means I need to start exploiting those resources, and then also coal. So the things needed... Now, that doesn't necessarily mean there's actual storage for tools nearby, but generally speaking, you don't have so much of a surplus of tools that you need a lot of storage for it. So, yeah, most of the guidance objectives are now being met. And the ones that I'm ignoring on purpose. So let's go ahead and set up a coal hut. And the coal nodes are the ones that are highlighted once I have this built. So I'll put one there. And then let's also set up copper. And then... yeah, we're good on that for now. I would say a second sawmill and a third woodcutter would be a good investment. As we are clearing a lot of space for residences now around the tavern. That was the goal, is we have this circle that I'm going to treat as residences only, meaning that eventually this hunting lodge and forage hut will get removed as well, but everything else will stay. Tides are not a thing, no. No, the water is static, at least for now. So here, the iron miners are waiting for nutritious meals cooked by the tavern and carried over by carriers so that the iron miners will work. So without a well-supplied tavern and market, a lot of your production chain will halt, which is important to have a well-supplied tavern and market. And pretty soon here, I will get into farming. There's a bunch of different crops to farm, and one of my gripes of the game is how farming is a little onerous in terms of setup. I mean, once it's set up, it's not so bad, but there's a lot of pitfalls and mistakes to be made once you start farming. So I will review those for you so you don't have to make said pitfalls, which can be very frustrating. Let's go ahead and get some basic residences. So these residences are larger than the cottages, and they house 25 people rather than 10. So this is 10, and then the bigger ones is 25. So in terms of land use, the residences are really just better. And this will house carriers, and then if their comfort meal scores are being met, they will have newborns. So I like to set it up near the tavern so that their comfort foods can be met more easily, because otherwise everyone is still sleeping on the Venturer, which is the boat we came in on, which acts as a general quarters. But the more people that you can live on the island, the less traffic you will have around the main road that comes and goes from your boat. Thank you for tuning in to Pioneers of Pagonia, which originally streamed live on Twitch December 19th. If you have any feedback or questions for me, let me know in the comments below, but please keep in mind that this is a mini-series streamed one time only, so changes cannot be made. If you would like to catch a live stream of mine, Rhadamant.com has my stream schedule and countdown timers to upcoming streams, And if you would like to join my online gaming community on Discord, a link can be found at my website or in the description of this video. Thank you so very much for watching, and a special thank you to my Patreon patrons, Twitch subscribers, and viewers like you that support the channel and made it all the way to the credits. Thank you so very much. I hope to catch you in next episode or an upcoming stream. Farewell, my fellow pioneers.